Welcome to Machine Builder Talk, the podcast where industry leaders, innovators, and visionaries in the industrial machine building world share their insights, challenges, and breakthroughs. Here are your hosts, Colin Cartwright and Craig Henry.
And here we are on the second edition of Machine Builder Talk. And Craig and I are really excited to have our first ever guest on the show today. Hey, Craig, how you doing?
Fantastic. Can't wait to get started. We've got an all-star here right off the bat.
Okay.
Coming in strong.
Okay, let's get into it then. I would like to welcome to all our listeners, the one and only Jonathan Darling, alternatively known, everyone will know him as JD. And if you're on LinkedIn, if you go to trade shows, you'll see him everywhere. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world, one of my really good friends, and I feel really privileged to have him on our show as the first guest. So, Jonathan, over to you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, before I do that, one of the things that I have to say right off the bat is I am incredibly honored to be the first guest on this podcast. I'm so pumped you guys are doing this. I truly believe it's going to bring a ton of value. And Colin, I'm very proud for you to be stepping into this new avenue here, and you and Craig, and you guys are just awesome. So first and foremost, really appreciate that.
So how come I'm not surprised that you would respond like that? Anyway, this show is about you, John. So let's get this thing off to a start, shall we? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've been in the industry for almost 2 decades now, and this industry changed my life and radically changed the way that I was able to care for my family and all these different things. And I'm now the director of sales and marketing for Elite Automation. And, you know, this industry just, it's so great, and the people are so incredible, and being able to work in it every single day and not only be able to serve the teams that I lead and the customers that we serve, like, man, there's nothing better, Colin.
I can't disagree with you. I've been 30 years in this industry now, and every single day is an interesting day, and highly recommend anyone looking at getting into industrial automation, don't hesitate. Get straight in.
It's a place to be.
So it is, absolutely. And Elite Automation, what do they specialize in? What do they do better than anybody else?
Well, one of the things that I think we do really, really well, and I always make sure that I'm not saying we're better than anybody else, because there are so many great companies out there that do similar things to what we do, that do an incredible job and serve and execute at such a high level. But the areas that we love to focus in and where we love to serve our customers is in the area of palletizing, end-of-line palletizing, and ASRS crane systems.
Right.
We focus on those as the two main areas where we feel like we're elite and we can execute at a high level for the customers who, you know, we feel like we can serve at a really high level. And so we've been focused on that. We've been around for 8 years and was started by Scotty Robinson, who's an incredible man, and someone I'm so incredibly excited to work with. And, you know, it's only been a few weeks now, Colin. Like we talked about that. There was some changes that happened, and you know, it's being able to come here. I've known this group for a while and have been connected with Scotty and a few others for about a year and a half now, and being able to come on board, and not to steal a quote from LeBron, but to bring my talents to Salt Lake City and by way of Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm really excited to help take us to that next level.
Brilliant. I can't wait to see what you and your team are going to do. So that leads us into what led you into the automation and machine building industry in the first place?
Accident. I really, calling me really well, and Craig, we've been getting to know each other since we met a few months ago at Pack Expo, and I had no clue this industry even existed. I was an exercise science major in college. I went to Ball State University. Chirp, chirp, the Fighting Cardinals, fiercest robin-like bird in nature. And I wanted to be a strength coach. Coaching is my heart. I truly believe in the potential of others and being that person to help be that catalyst of belief in their life. And when I was working in the fitness industry right out of college and training athletes and then running fitness gyms, and my wife and I were living in Birmingham, Alabama, actually. And my best friend from seventh grade in Indiana had taken a job at a packaging and janitorial supply distributor in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh,
Okay.
And we would travel up to Knoxville quite a bit. And he called me up one day and said, "Hey, JD, you want to come and sell toilet paper and tape?" And I thought that sounded like a really crappy job. No pun intended, but that was I'm kind of a jokester. So that was my initial response, but um, took that opportunity to get into B2B sales. And through that time, just found a love and a passion for packaging and moved into working for a company called Landtech in 2015. So
Nice.
making stretch wrappers and all that. And that's really what, when I found just this absolute love and obsession with what we do and how we help make sure that people never run out of the products that they love.
Yeah.
They can go to the store and they don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to be able to get that medicine or to be able to get that frozen pizza or whatever it is. And I've never looked back. I've never, since being in this industry, I've never considered even leaving. It's got me. I'm hooked.
I can relate to that for sure. Now, through that progression into the automation industry, can you think of a pivotal moment that got you hooked? You said you're hooked. What was that pivotal moment that got you hooked in the first place?
Yeah, I think what it was for me, Colin, is I didn't know what I didn't know at early on in my career. And I wasn't really sure or confident that any of the skills that I had developed during my time in the fitness industry and as a coach would transfer. But when I really started kind of getting into my groove of things a little bit, I realized that going in and being able to work with customers and be really really curious and ask a lot of questions to get to understand them, I started seeing how everything I had learned about developing athletes and understanding where they are, where they're trying to get to, and how I could kind of help create those roadmaps. All of a sudden that started transferring so much over into everything that I was doing. It just,
Wow.
all of a sudden that light just clicked for me. And I was like, oh, I get to help people accomplish their goals. It may not be fitness goals anymore. Now it's their goals in their role or what they're trying to accomplish as an organization so they can serve their customers. And it really shifted my perspective on how I was going to be able to make an impact in this industry and to meeting the people, Colin. Like, I don't know, I going into a manufacturing plant and meeting all the people that work the floor, work the line, that help run the facility, getting to hear all of their stories. I just knew this was where I was supposed to be. And at that point, it was all gas, no brakes, man. I was full in, ready to go.
You're funny you say that because there's a famous story about the space program that John F. Kennedy put into place. And there was a group of people touring the NASA headquarters, and they were nowhere near putting a man on the moon at this point. But there's a guy sweeping the floor, pushing a broom. And one of the executives said, "So what do you do?" He says, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." And it was just such a powerful answer from somebody that every person counted in that program. And I love your perspective that going into a manufacturing facility, it consists of so many different personalities, so many different backgrounds, and everyone's working together for a common goal. And as you said, the machines are a huge part of that, and keeping them running, upgrading them, repairing them, getting them back up and running when they break down, because they tend to do that sometimes. And it's something I think you're really passionate about. And it was going to lead into a question that Craig has.
I think I could actually jump ahead because I know JD well enough that I'm imagining it's not so much the technology, it's the people. Am I right? Am I on the right track here? Where developing people
Yes, sir.
seems to be
Yep.
your mission. And I want to deep dive on that for just a second. I see your posts. I see you have a great following on LinkedIn, and it's usually not about whether this input is NPN or PNP. It's not about necessarily AI. It's about developing people, and that has been inspiring to me. So I wanted to insert that. But tell us.
You very much so nailed it, Craig. You know, I can think back. I've never actually shared this on a podcast, by the way. So you guys and the listeners will be the first time that I've really shared this. I've always had this kind of calling in my life to serve people. My favorite superhero is Superman ever since I was a little kid. And there's always been this idea that I felt like my life was meant for the service of the greater good and the serving of people and for a long time, even before I got into the industry, Craig, I was in the fitness industry and I had applied to be a police officer when I was working to be a police officer in Birmingham. And because that pull was so great, I chose not to go into the military and get married instead. That was a conversation my wife and I had at one point. But there was always this need that I felt like everything that I was about was supposed to be about other people. And it weighed on me so much because I know I'm not a superhero. I know I can't save everyone or serve everyone. And there was always this dissonance in how I was approaching my work and what I thought I would do in my career. And what gets me out of bed in the morning is my faith is a big part of that, and realizing that there's something greater than me. My being the best husband that I can be, the best father that I can be, and then being the best man that I can be to serve the people that I've been awarded the opportunity to have in my life. And I view my customers very much so as that. It really is this. I hear people talk about it, and it's almost hard for me to explain it. It's just this absolute obsession with helping people be able to see that they have this incredible potential to achieve great things. And how can I help be the guy that maybe is a little bit of gasoline to that fire, right? There's so many people in my life that I can tell you that have poured water on the spark that I had in my life and inside me. And I just really made that decision a long time ago that I wasn't going to be one of those guys carrying the water jug to put the fire out. I was going to be carrying the can of gasoline to turn that little spark into an inferno.
Right.
And man, there's no greater gift than to wake up and serve others, man. And I love it.
You
couldn't agree with you
you
more.
met me, and this is my perspective. Okay, you had no idea this went on. So we were at a customer event in the evening at the View rooftop in Chicago, and before I met you, the Jordans talked to me. The Jordans are okay.
The Jordans, yeah.
So
yeah,
we're talking, and I'm talking ad nauseum per usual, and they're saying you need to meet JD, and they wouldn't give up on it. They're like, this is a guy you got to talk to. And so I come out, and you're in the other room because you're on an important phone call with somebody, like every big shot is. And I see you from across the room, and you're on the phone, and I'm like, okay, this guy, all right. And sure enough, you eventually came over after that call. I'm sure you're doing some great customer service thing, knowing you. And we had about a 30-minute.
He was doing some customer service with his kids.
Yeah,
more important.
Very much so.
And then, and then you came in, and we talked for about 30 minutes, and everything you were talking about, I aligned with your customer obsession and everything else. So just a little background on how we had interacted. Colin knows you for much longer, but ever since then, I hooked up, watched you on LinkedIn, and when Colin mentioned that as we came up with this idea, hey, we're going to get JD on, I was like, yeah, slam dunk. It may be downhill from here, is what I'm saying.
I know. We've set the bar really high for guests.
This may be it. It's going to be one and done, and we're going to shut her down.
No, I remember Colin when I met Colin, we met getting into a van together down in Cancun, Mexico, with my wife, and heading to a PMMI executive leadership conference down there, and immediately you guys know I use the word love a lot. Just immediately fell in love with Colin and who he is and the type of man he is. And I remember him telling me, "Man, you got to meet Craig." And I think that's one of the greatest things about you, Colin, is you're a connector of good people. And the entire group there with you guys is just incredible. And I remember the Jordans telling me, they were like, "Oh, you got to meet this Craig dude. Like, he's got your energy, JD. Like, he's your type of dude." And yeah, I love the way this industry brings great people
No
together.
question.
And if it wasn't for this industry, we wouldn't have this relationship, the three of us. And man, what an honor that is.
Oh, it's terrific.
I absolutely agree.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
We had such fun that
It
night.
is. And yes, I remember.
Go ahead, Colin.
So much
I
fun.
remember. Sorry, Craig. Yeah, I remember that day we actually ended up at the same table eating dinner that first night in Cancun, and I happened to have some tickets for a baseball game, and I said, "Are any Chicago fans around here? So tell us your love about Chicago. I know you're a huge Chicago Cubs fan, but that was the Cubs game we were going to. But you're also a Bulls fan too, right? So
yeah,
there's a bit of a
I love my first Major League Baseball game was a Cubs game going to Wrigley Field as a kid when we had moved to Indiana. So it was 7th or 8th grade, and there's nothing better than going to Wrigley Field, and I had never experienced it the way I experienced it with you guys in the club seats out in the outfield. And I just the being a Bulls fan was really about Michael Jordan, and I love high achieving people who are just absolutely obsessed with not perfecting their craft, but in the drive to try to be as perfect at their craft as what they can. I really admire high achievers and people who have that drive. But it's been something that I can tell you that I love the equipment and everything that we do in this industry. From my side of things, I'm obsessed with sales. Like, I love sales and learning about it and learning about people and human behavior and psychology and how people make decisions and learning how to build incredible relationships with incredible people. When I study that stuff and I obsess over it. And I'm going to Chicago next week. Can't wait. It's one of my favorite cities. I would never live there, but I love visiting there as much as possible. And I'll be rocking my Cubs hat next week.
Good stuff. Now, you said you love sales. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, sales has got a bad rap. I mean, salespeople would go in there, the old style sales. I think, John, you're one of the new breed of salespeople that we've got that bring value to every transaction with their customers and even prospects at this point. Before you've even sold them anything, I think you bring a tremendous amount of value to those people before they even buy anything from you. So I'd like to get your perspective on what you think sales should be and what that looks like to you.
Yeah, sales has been given a bad rap because the purpose of selling has become very selfish. And I believe in its truest form and in what it was originally created to be is the act of serving other people with your product, service, or solution. Sales is, in my opinion, one of the most honorable roles that you can play in your life, because it is truly about learning about the goals, challenges, and pains of people that you can serve with those products, services, or solutions to help them accomplish those goals or overcome those challenges or alleviate those pains. And I think oftentimes I can sit here and tell you, I don't care if somebody buys from me. I really don't. What I care about is, am I doing everything that I can do to help that customer make the best decision for them, so that they can go home and be with their families and not have to worry about whether or not the things that they're investing in their organization are going to be running for them and they're constantly being pulled away. I want to help customers be the heroes to their families, right? So that they can go home and have dinner with them and take them to ball games and do those things. And sales is just one of those avenues that I get to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there, because everyone we deal with is an individual, and they've got their own challenges. They've got their own goals, and albeit that they're going to be part of a team to get a machine built, they all have those individual ideals and the way that they want to live their lives. And I think as salespeople, we have to break down the stereotype of everyone's the same and get down on the personal level with each individual and kind of discover what everything means to them. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Fully
There's a
agree.
humility in it.
Yeah.
It's a service. And I've seen so many times salespeople, they don't see it the way you see it, of course, JD. They see it as, I'm going to get something. And they don't have a humility to understand that no one's really going to care about the product or service until you express care about them and care about their problems. And as you come as a trusted advisor or come in alongside them, I love your philosophy there, because I have been in selling in automation to some degree for the last 20 years. And I would venture as far as to say sales itself is dead in the old sense. You're solving problems. You're helping people meet their objectives.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're removing pain. That's what we do. And you wouldn't think a doctor would be someone in sales, but he's removing pain. He's solving problems. He's helping things heal. And we do that for organizations. So I love your approach, and I hope it
Yep.
is something now Elite can do. And maybe they've been doing it all along, but you're going to be bringing that element of let's go serve. And if you go serve, the world is yours.
Yeah. I was actually having a conversation this week with my sales team and getting to meet them. And one of the things I told them is a lot of times salespeople want to be the hero,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not the hero. We're Alfred. We're
Mm-hmm.
Alfred to
Mm-hmm.
Batman. We're that counsel to help them make the best decisions that they can so that they can go be the heroes within their organizations.
Yeah.
And I think when everybody's the main character in their own story. And I think with sales professionals, one of the greatest perspectives we could take is we're still the main character in our story. It's just we're not the Cape Crusader. We're the person who helps the Cape Crusader go be that. And
Right.
I love being that person.
It's not about glory.
It's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note, I wrote an article actually last week on LinkedIn called Winning Together. And it was all about how suppliers working with their machine builder customers can help those machine builders grow by not necessarily being a product pusher or a low price bidder. There's a lot more to it than that. But anyone listening to this, want to go and check that out, check out LinkedIn. Now, I want to quickly move on to some of the challenges and industry trends that we're dealing with now. What do you think, or what do you see as some of the biggest challenges machine builders are facing today?
I think it's really easy, Colin, to go to some of the numbers and metrics around labor and all of that stuff, which is a challenge for everybody. It's a challenge for our customers. It's the challenge for those of us who build equipment and build systems and all of those things. But when I think about it a little bit deeper, and it's my opinion on it, is that we've made it much more about the equipment and the solution than we have about what those things are allowing our customers to do, or how those things can allow us to develop the people that we have. And I think people development is one of the biggest challenges we have in the industry. I think it's one of the biggest challenges our customers have in the industry, and how we can shift our perspective from it being just about the equipment, but what the equipment allows our customers to do and what it allows our people to do. When you bring automation into a company, automation is one of those things that can allow you to develop your people and to give them new skills and new abilities, to remove them from menial tasks and mind numbing things that they do repetitively every day, to help them be in a position to do more impactful work where they feel more valued, where they feel like they're being developed. And I think employee engagement and employee retention on any side of anything that we do is one of our biggest challenges. And the other thing is how we're using our equipment and our technology help educate customers and people on to be more comfortable with it. I hear all the time when I tell people that I sell robots, like, well,
Ooh,
oh, so
yeah,
you're taking people's jobs. And I'm like,
exactly.
no, I'm helping them. I'm helping people in plants do more impactful work and more meaningful work where they feel like their work has real value. And when people feel valued, they go home and their families feel more valued because they're not searching for that value in other places. They get to do it in a day-to-day basis. I think there's a perspective shift that's needed. And when that happens, companies will see that their equipment and everything that they're making becomes so much more in demand because it means so much more to the people in the plant who that equipment gets to serve.
Yeah, I hear you, and you're absolutely right. There is a perspective from the outside when you're in the automation industry. You talk about your robots and automation that you're putting people out of jobs, and when you're on the inside here, you can see that we're improving people's lives, and we're making things easier for them, and I think probably more interesting because, as you said, if they're doing those mundane tasks day in day out, um, it's not a pleasant thing to do and getting them into another area of a variety, even just doing different projects. For example, you say bring in a robot, but someone's got to actually service the robot. Someone's actually got to prepare um, areas for robots to pick up parts or take them off on the outfeed side. There are so many parts of that puzzle. There are so many positions that I needed to support the robot essentially. So there are probably 3 positions created for every robot, that's installed.
Exactly.
So absolutely hear you there. And one of my favorite quotes is by Wayne Dyer. And it says, when you look at something differently, what you're looking at is different. And I think a lot of people are stuck looking at something the same angle all the time. And if they just change the perspective and change their angle and look at it from a different angle, it is
Mhm.
different. And I think that's one of the things that automation is
No
doing.
question. I think
So
we look at this
Yeah, so
differently on
good.
this call, and I think we have to face the harsh reality in employment today. There's a study that's done every year. I don't know if it's Columbia University, but one of the universities gets job satisfaction numbers. And one of the topics was what percentage of the workforce is doing the bare minimum to get by and receive a paycheck. And that number is at an all time high in the US. It's at 53%. That means 1 out of 2 people does not have the kind of fire in their belly that we have, I think, on this call. And certainly that you don't express that kind of let me just get through the day and get to the weekend. And so, it leads us into how do you get people out of that mode, because it's everywhere and it's irrespective of age, apparently. What do you do from a leadership perspective, JD, to overcome a group?
Craig, I'm going to jump in.
Go ahead.
Excuse me for jumping in because I'm really passionate about this. We need to get shop back in schools.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's where it starts. That is the seed for everything else. Okay. Because we have youngsters that are in school, they don't get any chance to articulate or exhibit themselves in a physical way when it comes to tools and
Trades.
processes
Hmm.
of working with machines. Okay. And there's been this big push for a generation now that all our kids have got to go to university and get a degree. Okay. And we took shop away. Oh, we don't need to do shop anymore. We don't need to do home economics anymore. I mean, learning to cook in school
Yep.
is another thing, right? But the shop sessions, I think, gave people an opportunity to discover something they didn't know they wanted to
Hmm.
do at an early age. And they realized that they were handy with their hands. They were really good at thinking about processes of how to machine something. And it led to an apprenticeship and a skill, which is where we're missing now. Someone made a mistake in killing shop at school, and that's
Yep.
caused a big problem now. I
Agreed.
think we introduce shop again, then I think we can start solving the skilled labor shortages that we're having, not now, but in a generation from now.
And Colin, and I agree.
Sorry,
And I
passionate about that.
no, I love it, and it's so true. I can look back, and when I moved to Indiana in 7th grade, at Driver Middle School in Winchester, Indiana. We at that point had an incredible shop teacher. His name was Mike Fitzgerald. And I remember one of my favorite things that we would do in Mr. Fitzgerald's class. He would laugh if I called him that. He tells me to call him Mike now. I can't. He's Mr. Fitzgerald. I remember making robots with popsicle sticks and little syringes and using air or using water, right? And I love that. I love that. I still remember making the project and working on picking up a pencil with my little robot that we created. And I look back on that, and that was something that I had so much joy in as I got into high school. Being in shop was like where the weird kids went, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember always being steered away from it. And I tell my kids now, like when they're like, "Dad, you're so weird," I'm like, "Heck yes, I am. I am weird. I wear that as a badge of honor because I don't want to be like anybody else."
Right.
There was a study that was done that said parents, this was a part of a paper I wrote during my MBA, that parents are actively pushing their kids away from careers in manufacturing because they don't see manufacturing as this glory-filled place of opportunity, when in reality, there's so many different roles kids can go into, these young people can go into in manufacturing and have incredible careers and grow and develop incredible skills, that it's put us at a disadvantage in manufacturing here, especially in the United States, because we don't see it as this promised land. We see it as the land we're trying to steer clear of, right? And I believe if we bring that passion back, and I think there's a lot of people doing a great job of that in career opportunity in manufacturing, and all the different avenues you could go into, whether it's marketing, finance, machine building, engineering, programming. You could just go on and on. And I've heard stories of working at Landtech. Gina, who was the plant manager at Landtech for a long time, she had been with Landtech for 25, 30 years, and she started as a forklift driver. And when I was there from 2015 to 2021, she was the number 2 in charge of all operations at Landtech. And she started as a forklift driver. And there's just so much opportunity there. And I think if we start changing the narrative a little bit and changing that perspective and bringing more of that overall perspective to what manufacturing has to offer, I think that's where us as leaders and people who are passionate about this industry, I think that's where we can play that little part in helping shift that perspective and bringing that visibility to what's possible in this type of work.
Absolutely. Hey, Craig, I think you've got some questions. And just for the listeners, the normal procedure is Craig and I would alternate our questions, but he's in this place that's got a really bad microphone there.
Sorry.
He ended up going into a meeting really late. So, Craig, I'm going to hand over to you for this next section. I think you wanted to talk
Absolutely
about
wanted to talk about leadership because I think it's vastly scarce in all of business. And I'd like to hear your perspectives on it, JD, because you clearly are not a lone wolf out there just trying to go and make sales or make customer relationships. You're building teams, you're leading teams. What is your philosophy regarding leadership, and what do you think might be unique about your approach?
Yeah, let me hop on my soapbox here for a minute. I believe leadership is love. A lot of people have in my life called me the love and leadership guy, and that's because I believe in it wholeheartedly, that leadership is our ability to love and care for people who have been put in our stewardship. And Bob Chapman, who is the owner of Barry Waymiller, he wrote a book called Everybody Matters. And in that book, he used a quote that I feel like rings so true. And I'll probably butcher the quote because I've changed it over time to a little bit more of my vernacular. But what Bob said was, management is the selfish endeavor of accomplishing selfish goals, where leadership is the stewarding of people who have been put in your care. And he uses an analogy of being at a wedding and seeing a dad walking his daughter down the aisle, and having to hand off their daughter to the future husband. And in that moment, he said he realized that everyone is someone's daughter or son.
Yeah.
And that when you give that handoff, you are giving that person to that other in this hope that they're going to love and steward that person and care for them in the same way that you did as a parent, right? And I take leadership very seriously. I tell people I don't manage things, I lead people. And that leadership looks a certain way, it sounds a certain way. I always tell people, if you go to Second Corinthians and go to the verse where it talks about love is patient, love is kind, and you replace that word love with leadership. Leadership is patient, leadership is
Yeah.
kind, leadership is not self-serving, leadership holds no record of wrong, leadership does not boast, leadership always hopes, it always perseveres. And and that just really stuck with me, of going, if that's what love is, and you can put leadership in there or your own name in there, and that verse still rings true, then obviously love is leadership, and leadership is loving other people and helping other people accomplish what it is that they feel like their purpose is to accomplish in this world. Nobody comes to work because they want to accomplish my goal.
No, no.
People
What?
come to work because they have things that they're trying to accomplish in their life. They want to buy a house, they want to buy a car, they want to send their kid to college, they want to get out of debt. They want to retire and be able to travel. There's all these things that they go to work to do, and I think we've lost this perspective on that it's not about me. I told my team this week, I said, look, guys, I'm not here for you to make me look good. I'm not here for you to accomplish what JD is here to accomplish. I'm here to help you accomplish the things that you're driving towards in your life. And I know that the outcome of helping great people do great things and accomplish great things in their life, I know the outcome of that is I will probably benefit from that in the long run. That is the outcome, not the goal. And so I especially in manufacturing and in sales and in everything we do, I think we make it way more about what we're trying to accomplish versus how we're developing great people so that they can go out and do great things.
Love it. A famous quote from one of my mentors, George McKinnon. He was a great leader. He believed in empowering his people. And he said to me, when you empower your people to achieve great things come back to you. And he couldn't have been more right. In my whole career, the managers I've had that have empowered me and trusted me to do the right things and believe in myself that I'm doing the right things and give me that empowerment have always appreciated it. And I've got the recognition themselves because of what results and what achievements their team has made. Okay.
Yep.
You don't have to claim that for yourself. You don't even have to mention it. People look at you and they look at your team and they go, whoa, that is a great team. And who leads that team? Right. That's all it comes down to.
Yep.
It's the leadership. You've said it absolutely. I think you said it more eloquent than me all the way through there, but empowering those people that work for us or work with us. Let's put it the other way. Let's put it with us instead of for us. They don't work for us. They work with us. And it's a team all the way through. Well said.
Excellent. Yeah, it's the servant.
I'll get
Well,
off my
you can be on your
soapbox
soapbox. I think the more that you drive that home, the better. I get so tired of people in any industry who are out with their customers with a Cheshire grin on their face about the big commission they want to make, and that's all they're focused on, when in fact it is an act of service. And so let's go another step with this then. So you have a team and you help them to be empowered and you love on them in the best way. But what about the vision and the skills that they don't have? How do you set a goal, JD, for the future to say, here's the vision of where we're going. Here's where we are, of course, but there's a new future with new skills, maybe new products, new customers. How do you get that knowledge across to them beyond just the empowerment, the tools, the vision? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that's one of the incredible opportunities I'm getting here at a lead is being able to help us make sure we're bringing clarity to what our vision is and how we're looking to accomplish that. And John Gordon wrote a great book called The Energy Bus.
Yes,
And
yes, great book.
he talks a
Yeah,
lot about you've got to be very clear on where the bus is going and give people an option to be on the bus or to not be on the bus. And here's what I'll say is that not everybody is going to want to go where you're wanting to go. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That happens. So the goal then becomes are we doing everything as an organization to make sure that the vision and where we're going is clear? Are we connected with our people to where we understand are there areas that that they have that drive and that want to develop? And the more we're connected with our people, the more we can understand where us as leaders can help guide them and help them identify maybe some of those gaps in areas that they feel like they're not developed, they're not ready, and help give them the confidence that we're going to be there beside them to help them develop those areas, right? And anytime a vision is created with the company, there's all these consultants out there and all these people who go through and they develop the mission and the vision and the core values and all of these different things. I think we miss the why those things are important. I think we look at the people that we get to steward in organizations and we make very quick judgments based on biases of what we think, and we're not really digging into the people side of it and identifying superpowers that people innately have, and instead of focusing on the areas that maybe they aren't the greatest in, focus on the areas that they are really great in and how we can develop those areas, because that's what's going to bring more passion and energy to the organization, and they're going to want to be on that bus.
Right.
And
yeah.
if somebody doesn't want to be on the bus, it's not a contrite thing where it's like,
No.
oh, you don't want to be on our team, okay, bye. Like, I remember a leader in my first role in packaging distributing. He said that when somebody was leaving the company or looking to take a new job, it was like, well, good riddance, and we don't negotiate with terrorists. And I look back on that now and I think, what an awful way to
Absolutely.
look at your people. Our people aren't terrorists. Like, we are surrounded every single day by the world's greatest resource, which is
Mhm.
people. And yet we don't treat them
Right.
that way. And so I think the more we can learn about people and the people within our organizations and identify those areas that they want to be developed in and they have a drive towards, and then identify the people who may not want to be on the bus, and instead of cutting them off like they're terrorists, look at them and be like, hey, maybe there's another place where you're a better fit, or how can we help you find that next company that you can go and impact?
Exactly. They just need to find the next bus that may be the one for them, going to the destination they need to go. And just getting back to that point, I had a CEO that actually made a point of calling me because I wished someone luck in their new position after they'd left the company I was working for. And he told me, we don't do that. We can't wish them luck at our competitors. And I said, you really called me to tell me that? That's really small. That's going to make them a better life. I
Yeah,
think.
we mentioned the Jordans, and they were on my previous team at Robex, now Aceta, and um, I told them from the very beginning. I told them through the hiring process. Look, I'm not ignorant to the fact that this may not be where you work forever,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. And I want them to be able to come to me if they get an opportunity. I want them to be able to know that they have somebody that they can trust and that they value the feedback, and let's talk about it. Let's make sure it's going to be the best fit for you. Because here's the thing. I don't know about you guys. I coach 14U softball. It's not fun beating a crappy team. It's
No,
not fun
no.
beating a horrible team. In sales, I don't like going out and winning the opportunity to serve a customer against competition that is mediocre or okay. I want to go out there and I want to beat the best of the best. And if that means somebody I've been able to have the privilege of helping develop goes somewhere else and they take that ripple effect to the next company and that raises that bar of execution or that bar of service at the company and we're competing against each other, man, let's go. I want to compete against the best. And because I know when we're all at our best, our customers are going to be getting the most incredible experience that they ever could get.
I was just about to say, when that situation happens, who's the winner out of everything? It's the customer, right? So we're going to head into a little bit of fun and kind of reflective questions with you now, JD. So the question is if you could give your younger self one piece of career advice, what would it be?
Believe in yourself more.
Hmm.
Yeah. Even saying that, like, tugs at my heartstrings. Colin, you and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand. I lived a lot of my life and had a lot of the beginning of my career doubting that I had value
Mm-hmm.
and was always looking at how to win and seek approval from other people. I'm kind of crazy, man. I've got crazy ideas. I've got my mind goes 1,000 miles an hour. And I've always felt like there's so many areas that I believe I can make an impact in. And um, I didn't write for a long time because I was scared of what other people might think about my writing. I didn't make videos on LinkedIn or any other social media platform like I did before, like I do now. And if I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be believe in who you are and believe in those gifts, talents, and skills that you've been given, and don't let anyone convince you otherwise.
I appreciate what you said there because this podcast probably wouldn't be happening right now if it wasn't for you. You are the inspiration for me to start writing and posting videos. And I mentioned that right at the beginning of the year, right? And I'm not, no, you're going to take the credit for that one. So thank you for inspiring me. And that's what it does, JD. We inspire more to do the same. Okay. So you inspired me, and maybe my writing will inspire other people to come into the industry or maybe lift their game and help their customers better. So it's a win-win for everyone. And we can all help each other, lift each other up all the time and support each other. It doesn't matter if we're at different companies. If a colleague leaves your company and goes somewhere else, wish them luck. I'm not going to go there with that CEO.
Somebody else winning. One of the greatest lessons I've ever learned is someone else winning doesn't mean I'm losing.
Exactly.
And I believe in championing and encouraging and being that cheerleader for when other people win. I love seeing people win, man. No matter what it's doing, I love seeing great people win. And I can be really pumped for someone else's success and not have it be a definition of whether or not I'm being successful.
Well said. But I'm just thinking while you were saying that there are so many great sound bites in this podcast. Thank you for that. And I'm going to lead in. So, what is one software or one resource that you couldn't live without? That was my next question. So, every day there's something you use, there's something, maybe a tool, a piece of software, or something that you couldn't live without. What would that be?
I'm going to give you two answers, and one I won't dive in, but it's the truest answer ever. Is I don't think I'd be able to go without my Bible. That has taught me so much about business and leadership and relationships, and it's one of the greatest business tools I've ever had access to. The other one I would say is LinkedIn. The relationships, LinkedIn, it's a social media tool. And social media was originally created to connect people socially and to help people build relationships and drive connection. And I would say I've met some of today, some of my closest friends and people that I know care about me and I care about them and their families. And it's become one of those tools that I 100% know that I would not be where I am in my career today if it wasn't for relationships on LinkedIn. Like, let's be honest, Colin, and I'm okay with sharing. I've not openly shared this yet publicly. I'm working on it. I'm working on the post for it and sharing the story. But I was, due to a company restructure, I was let go 2 weeks ago, Wednesday. And because of LinkedIn, 22 hours later, I had a job offer in my email from a lead.
Yeah. It was incredible. I was going through that with you on the phone, and I missed a call from you, and I called you back a couple of hours later from when you posted that, and you had someone had already approached you and said, "Look, we would like to talk to you about position," just in the space of a lunch meeting I had. It's incredible, and you're right. It was a lot to do with LinkedIn, but it was a lot more to do with who you are, John. So
But I think when we use LinkedIn as a tool to build relationship and to be able to build familiarity with people and give a little bit of not only colleagues but potential customers that a little bit of insight into who we are as people. People connect with people, and it's just been an incredible tool that I will shout its importance from the mountaintops.
yeah, and what people connect with people, people buy from people too.
Yep.
I think a lot of senior executives forget about that, and they think they're buying from the company, but really it comes down to that individual that's in front of the customer that they're buying from. And these days, most of the corporations, there's very little difference between product quality, service, between one big company to the next. And it really comes down to that one person or a team of people that are servicing that customer that make the difference. And
Yep.
I think that has to be recognized a lot more, that it's not a company thing.
Yep,
But
I agree.
I think you might have answered this next question as we roll into the end here at the beginning. And basically, what would you do if you weren't in automation as a career? What would be?
If I wasn't working in this industry, I'd be a coach. I'd coach sports teams. I believe in coaching, and I believe so much in what great coaches can do for individuals. And so if I wasn't working in this industry, I would definitely be a full-time coach somewhere. And I would also say, like, I love marketing. I tell people I'm a marketing guy trapped in a sales guy's body. And I originally went to college to be a film production major. And I love creating stories and all of that stuff. And yeah, if it wasn't coaching, I'd be one of those crazy creative marketing people.
That makes sense. Why your videos are so good now. You see, you went to school to learn that. Okay.
Just working on it, getting better every day.
So we've gone through a lot of questions here in this show, and we've covered a lot of ground. Now, what would be one or two questions you wish we'd asked you?
So this first one I'm going to give to Craig because you had originally brought up the conversation of leadership. And this is one of those questions that I don't think anybody else would give you, which is I love that you guys are doing this. So I think, Craig, from a leadership perspective, the question that I would have loved for you to ask is, which animal in the animal kingdom do you feel like best represents leading a team?
I would have never asked you that question. That is a great question. Okay. So I don't have to do anything but now listen to your wonderful answer because I'm all ears.
Yeah. So for me, we use mascots all the time in sports teams and different things like that. And I always say if I could make a mascot for my leadership and the type of team that I believe can accomplish great things is Geese. I would have a goose. And the reason why is because people hate geese. The Canadian geese fly south for the summer, but I think we don't understand what all it takes to get from Canada down to this little area not too far from my house where they love to congregate. And one of the most amazing things is when you see a flock of geese flying in a V, the first goose is not necessarily the titled leader. It is
No.
the one that is leading at the moment. And that goose is the one that takes all of the wind resistance for the rest of the geese to allow them, when they're in that V and they're in formation, they remove of the wind resistance from the rest of the geese, and it allows them to travel more efficiently and not expend as much effort. And so I view leadership as not being about a title or a position, but about the choice to lead when you're called on to lead. The other thing that I love about geese, which makes them one of the greatest examples of a team, is when you hear them honking and you hear all that stuff. They're actually honking encouragement to one another. They're honking correction in the formation to one another. Their honks are encouraging the leader to keep pushing, to keep going, to keep flying. And that's how, in some instances, they're able to fly in their trip up to 5,000 miles to get to their destination. The other thing that I love about it too is if a goose gets hurt, there will be 1 to 2 other geese that will stay with that injured goose until it is healthy enough to fly. They never leave anyone behind. And so to me,
Incredible.
the goose is one of the greatest examples of leadership and one of the greatest examples of a high achieving team.
I love that. I've never heard that before. I've heard something similar, that Pelotons, cycling teams, do the same thing. The leader is the one taking the drag and people come in behind and get a rest into the middle of the peloton. And it was based on that same theory of geese. But I think that's a story. I love it.
Yeah. I did write an article several years ago on LinkedIn spelling that out. And yes, I do own a sweatshirt with a giant goose on it that
I've got
wear.
a lot more respect for geese now. Being in Canada, we have a lot of them here, and they fly over my house probably like 20 or 30 feet above my house. So they honk and they're really loud.
2.5, 3 hours, I'll hear a group of geese fly directly over my house and they honk. And it's something that I love so much and talk about so much. My wife will literally look over at me if we're sitting together and we hear them fly over, and we'll stop talking and we'll just listen to the geese fly over, and she just smiles at me.
Yeah.
And because she knows, like, people send me pictures of geese flying over their house now because they know how much I love it.
That's going to spread, my friend, because I think I'm going to have that same thought when I hear the geese flying over our house now. And I think my wife and I are going to sit in silence and think of that story and
just listen
the whole
to encouragement.
thing.
It's
amazing.
You're just
That's
listening
incredible.
to encouragement.
Wow. I'm glad you got Craig to ask you that question. I really am. I'm
You're
really
welcome.
glad.
Now, Colin, are you ready for yours?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So obviously you're starting this journey in putting yourself out there, sharing your voice, sharing your experience, and you're starting to write. You've started this podcast. The question that I would love you to ask is, what has been the most challenging experience you have faced when starting to put yourself out there and make yourself more visible through the sharing of your voice and your stories?
I would love to hear your take on that question, because I'm sure it's going to help me a lot in the journey ahead. So please fill me in, or fill us in.
So I started writing as a kid, writing poetry, all types of stuff. My grandma wrote a book and got to watch her go through that process. And in 2015, 2016, I think it's 2016, I decided to start a blog called What the Sell. And it was the life of a professional salesman, bumps, bruises, and lessons learned along the way. And it's what I titled my podcast. And I remember writing my first article, which was on a targeting strategy and how to actually have a strategy around targeting new business.
Yeah.
And back then we weren't fully connected with everything. And so I had gotten an email notification that I had received several comments on my first blog post. And so I couldn't wait to get home. I was so excited. I was like, holy crap, somebody actually read this thing. Like, that just blew my mind. And so when I went back and I got home to my home office and I lifted up my laptop, logged in to the blog and went down and looked at the comments that I needed to approve to post, and I didn't recognize any of the email addresses. There was about 5 of them. And when I started reading through the comments, they were some of the most derogatory things that I had ever read about myself and read about my writing. And come to find out, several of the C-suite leaders of the distributor that I had left working for to go to Landtech had made up fake email addresses and were writing those comments on my blog posts. And this continued for quite a while with almost every post that I put out. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm just going to stop. I'm not going to write anymore. What's the point? I'm just getting made fun of. And I remember being so excited for those first comments and then reading them, feeling the lowest of low from that highest of high. And that's when I really had this realization, especially around leadership. It's when I became so passionate about leadership is that these were men whose lives I wanted to emulate. I wanted to emulate their careers. I wanted to be like them. I thought they were people who actually cared about me. And it just became this absolute obsession with really starting to dig in to understand what leadership truly was and what leadership truly is, what it should look like, feel like, what it should feel like when somebody else experiences great leadership, and being more about caring about people than caring about outcomes. And
Yeah.
it just really taught me that not everybody is going to be your cheerleader. Not everybody is going to support you. And it really made me start auditing my circle of who is allowed to speak into my life, who's not allowed to speak into my life, and hold that very tight and dear and audit that on a regular basis. But it also showed me that people are scared of change. And oftentimes, people view others stepping out and sharing their voice as something that is this innate thing inside of them that they wish that they could do. They just don't have the confidence to do it.
Hmm.
And I always love sharing that story with people, because when they're starting to do things like you're doing and sharing their voice and starting to be more present on social media, there's going to be people who don't understand it. There's going to be people who aren't supportive of it, who don't encourage it. And that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but
Yeah.
opinions are like buttholes, man. Everybody's got one and they all stink. You
Right.
know, that when you feel pulled to share that voice, however you feel pulled to share it, trust that. And the people who really love you, who really want to see you soar and know that that potential's inside of you, bro, they're going to be the ones that pour that gasoline on it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate your support all the way through this journey so far. And I know I'm going to see
Believe in
you
you, man.
a lot more. We're going to, that's what we're trying to achieve here, is to see each other a lot more and work together more. And I'm so looking forward to that, JD. So we're wrapping up a little bit now. There's a couple of questions left. One is a thing we're going to ask every single guest on our podcast. And that is, at the end of the show, we're going to ask you to refer someone else that we should contact to get on the show. And essentially, you're giving us permission to contact them because you think they're going to be a great guest on the show. And that could be an ex-boss, an ex-colleague, it could be a mentor, or anyone else in your life. It could be anybody you think is going to bring value to our listeners, especially in this industry, the industrial automation and machine building industry. So have you got someone in mind?
Yeah, I think somebody that I think would be incredible on this show, and somebody who I have kind of brought into the industry, that I recruited long ago into the industry, and now he's just absolutely crushing it, is a guy by the name of Derek Nave. Derek Nave works for Associated Packaging. He's on a little bit different vertical, but Derek is somebody who is just he's one of the greatest out there to do it in serving customers with anything from packaging consumables to equipment, and his customers love him. And I think he's somebody who he's been on a few podcasts, but he's somebody whose voice needs to be heard a little bit more, because the way he serves his customers is something I think we should all strive towards.
Awesome. We will be hiring you to help us get in contact with Derek, and be excited to get him on the show.
Make it. I'll connect you guys via text message and let him know that I've said he's committed to it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Here we are at the end. And again, just to our listeners, I apologize for doing a lot of the talking on our side here today. Craig's audio has been pretty in and out, so he'll be participating a lot more in the next episode on the host side.
Indeed.
But JD, thank you ever so much for being our first guest. I think it's going to be a phenomenal episode when it gets aired, and I think there's golden nuggets spread throughout this episode. So thank you for that. Now, where's the best place for people to find Jonathan Darling?
One of the best places is LinkedIn. That's my social media of choice. I'm on all of them and post a lot of the same content on pretty much every platform, but LinkedIn is one of the best places to find me and connect with me. And don't be surprised that if we connect, I got to catch up with a lot of them, but you're probably going to get a video message to where I introduce myself to you and say hello. So just be prepared.
I was going to say, I remember connecting with you on LinkedIn and getting that video.
Yep.
So
it's something I love to do, to just show people that, like, hey, I'm a real person, and I want to be more connected with you than get anything from you. So don't be surprised if that happens.
Awesome. Well, that's a wrap, everyone. So thank you for listening. Please stay tuned. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you want to visit our website, it's machinebuildertalk.com, all one word. And we look forward to bringing more guests like John on the podcast next week. So thanks a lot for listening.
Find us at machinebuildertalk.com and wherever you listen to interesting podcasts. We encourage you to subscribe and to reach out with your comments and questions. Until next time, make it great.